All right, everyone, welcome. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I have a special guest today. His name is Chuck. He just hacked his bachelor's degree, and he earned his entire bachelor's degree in 18 months. He was shooting for 9, but literally everything that could happen in life happened, and his schedule just was absolutely insane. And he still beat the national average 5.5 year bachelor's degree and did it in 18 months. So, Chuck, welcome and thank you for being here. First thing I want to say is congratulations.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you giving me the time to sit down and talk and maybe motivate some people to change their lives.
I hope so as well. I mean, a lot of people that I talk to have just insanely busy schedules and they think there is no way this is going to happen. So I think your story is going to inspire a lot of people to just say, you know what, it doesn't matter what's going on in life. I can do this. Now, I want to do this a little bit backwards. Normally, I start when I do videos like this, I ask students first about school. We're going to get to Chuck's story in just a minute with school and all the chaos that happened in his life and his wife going into labor on an airplane and crazy stuff. But first thing I want to talk about, I want to do this a little bit backwards. Chuck already got a sweet job promotion. That's the whole reason we get degrees. So, Chuck, just let me start by asking you, because the promotion is why you wanted the degree. You got the promotion. Tell us a little bit about what the degree is doing for you right now.
Well, it's definitely already made changes. It made changes for me in my life and my career, even before I finished the program. In early in January, I had an opportunity presented to me to take over as the deputy general manager of a company with over 300 employees and large budgets to maintain every week, every month, every minute of the day. But just based off of the experience I already had in my industry and the fact that I was so close to completing this degree, the position was offered to me and I took it, obviously. And so that's really the most recent way that this degree has already affected my life.
Man, that's huge. Do you mind if I ask you, how long have you had enough experience to actually qualify for a job like that if you had had the degree earlier? Because it's clear,
Oh,
just having the degree, boom, you're in. But how long have you actually been qualified?
at least for 10 years, I would consider myself to be qualified to do a job like this, but it's just that piece of paper stopped me at the door.
Well, that's no longer. You got the degree. Super exciting. Now, let's dive into school, okay? For those of you who don't know, I teach people how to earn college degrees faster. I have a program called Degree Hacking Academy. Chuck went through my program and was absolutely crushing it, like flying killer pace to earn his degree. Then life happened. Um, you ended up getting your degree in 18 months instead of the 9 that you were shooting for. But I guess first thing, how long did your first class take you before life got crazy?
So before life got crazy, the first day of the term that I started in school, then about 8 hours I had passed the final exam for that course. So just going through the program, using the study habits. The first thing I did was take a practice exam. I passed the practice exam fairly quickly, and then I waited maybe 30 or 45 minutes, and I took it again, just one more time to make sure, and passed it again. So as soon as I passed it that second time, I scheduled the next available final test, and passed that final test. And from the time I was enrolled in that first course on the first day was about 8 hours to the time that I finished the test.
8 hours finished. This is, and for everyone listening, we're talking about a full semester class. Like normally every 4, 5, 6 months, we're doing 4 classes, and Chuck finished his first class in 8 hours. So if life didn't happen, if everything went smooth, how fast do you think you would have graduated?
I really think at that point, if certain things didn't happen, that I would have met that original 9 month goal, if not sooner, but definitely would have met that 9 month goal that I set for myself in the beginning of the program.
That's so cool. So cool. Now, let's talk about life and how it went and what happened and what slowed you down. Can you give us a little overview of just kind of why it took you? And by the way, the reason I want to say this is Chuck sent me an email saying like, "Hey Ryan, I just want to reach out and let you know I finished, I graduated, but it took me longer than I was expecting, and it took me a whole 18 months. I know that's longer than most of your students or whatever." And I wanted to like reach through my computer and shake you and be like, 18 months is awesome. Like, yeah, it's on the slower end of what I see with people that I help degree hack. But man, you had this crazy busy life, and most of the world does it in 5.5 years. Like, you're talking a few hours here, a few hours there working on your degree, and boom, it's done 3, 4, 5 times faster than a normal student. It's a huge accomplishment. But what happened in life? Like, life got crazy. You've told me a little bit, but I'd love for you to share kind of why you missed your goal and things went a little
So
bit slower.
shortly, a little slower,
Yeah.
some might say. So shortly before my first term started, we found out that my wife was pregnant. That was maybe 2 or 3 months before I actually started the term. So I've been doing a lot of research at that point, but committed to it about 3 months before I actually started. And right at that point, we found out that my wife was pregnant. So that already added another level to add on to carving out that time, making it difficult to carve out that time to study, because now you're juggling full-time job, you're juggling taking your wife, to the appointments that she needs to go to regularly, and making time to study. So, finding out my wife was pregnant really started to slow down the target that I had really set for myself, which was, one class per week. That's I spend most of the work week studying when I had a chance, and then take those tests on the weekends. But then it went down to maybe a class a week and a half, or maybe every 2 weeks, and then 2.5 weeks as time went on. So that was kind of the first thing. And then even before we found out that my wife was pregnant, we had already had a trip planned, a vacation planned, and we really juggled. We went back and forth about whether or not to stick with the vacation, or to cancel it and just stay home and rest. But ultimately, we made the decision to commit to the trip, to do it, and we flew over. And beforehand, before anybody starts to think like, oh well, I wouldn't do that. The airline requirements that we were flying on was less than 36 weeks pregnant, with the doctor's clearance. So we got the doctor's clearance, and we were well under the 36-week requirement. It was like 29 weeks or 30 weeks when we left. So we went, we took a trip, had a good time, got to spend some time with my brothers that I don't see very often. Our flight back, about 4 hours into the flight, we were somewhere over Canada. My wife comes out of the restroom and tells me that she thinks her water broke. And that's talk about a life-changing moment. And I'm kind of taking a minute to process it all and come up with a game plan in my head when the flight attendant comes by and asks, sir, is everything okay? And of course, no, ma'am, everything's not okay, and explain the story that I just told to you. And then it's just straight out of a movie after that. She gets on the intercom and asks, is there a doctor on board? We have a medical emergency on the plane. And there was a doctor on board, and of all people, it was the captain of the airplane, because not only is he a 747 captain, he's also a medical doctor, which when I tell this story, I always say that I wish I had met this man in any other circumstances, because he's probably very, very interesting. But that's the time I got to meet him, and thank God that he was there. So he came out, he talked to me, he talked to my wife, and then went back and called back to their headquarters, and they made the decision to divert the plane. It's time to turn the plane around, and we ended up landing. I remember the pilot telling us first that we were going to land in Minneapolis, and he goes back to the cockpit and starts preparing for landing. And at that point, he didn't make any announcement. He didn't tell anybody, any of the other passengers, what was going on, because also we were kind of towards the front of the plane, so we weren't. Not everybody that wasn't around us knew exactly what was going on, but they just knew that something was happening. So I remember watching on the screen the little map and seeing the plane slowly start to turn over to the left and kind of looking around to see if people start to realize that, we're turning around. And at that point, once he turned the plane around, he made the announcement that there was a medical emergency and that they had to divert the plane and make an emergency landing. He comes back out to talk to us. And although the original plan was to land in Minneapolis, when he called the airport there, the tower told him, no, you don't have permission to land. So then they had to find another airport, and we ended up landing in Chicago rather than Minneapolis. And everything else is kind of like a whirlwind after that. We land, and within 5 minutes of being on the ground, we're in the back of an ambulance heading to the hospital. And it turned into, I mean, at that point, we were really focused on how do we get home? What's the best way that we can travel back home? And ultimately, what the doctor told us was, your son's going to be born in this hospital. And I'm from Tennessee. My wife has family in the States, but she's actually from Korea. So both of us might as well have been in foreign countries because we didn't have any help just around the corner. So it really turned into, about 2 weeks of crisis management at that point before we could finally, the baby was born about 5 days after we landed. Because he was born early, ended up having to spend time in the ICU. So a total of, 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks stuck in Chicago when we did not plan on being stuck in Chicago for that long.
Man.
But then as everybody that has kids knows, that once the kid is born, they become the priority. So school really took a back burner for me at that time, focusing on taking care of the baby, making sure that everybody's good, making sure that I get my family back home to where they're supposed to be. So at that point, I really had to put a bit of a pause on the studies at that point. And it might have been like maybe another month or something before I actually sat down and got into another class.
And I mean, any full term baby as a newborn is takes all of our energy. We're talking your baby was born very early, premature. Yeah, that comes first. And for anyone watching, like school, there are things more important than school, right? We all know this, and that's why most of us have dropped out of school in the past, is because there are things that are more important. It's really cool to see like everything happened and your work life was crazy and you still reach the finish line. Now, when we talk about a 4 year student, someone that earns a degree in 4 years, we're talking someone that's spending 60 hours a week going to school. You just graduated in 18 months. I know you weren't a 60-hour a week student. Just kind of tell me like what was the schedule actually like to go at the pace you went? Because on papers to get a degree in 18 months were hundreds of hours a week. What was reality with degree hacking?
Reality is really making time to study where I can, whether it's reading flashcards at my desk when I'm eating my lunch, or if I have a few free minutes, in between meetings or something like that. But the big thing was that time that I had to myself after getting our son to bed, and about the 2 hours or so, 2 to 2.5 hours or so that I had to myself when my son went to bed was spent doing that studying. So it was about 2 hours a day during the work week, and then maybe 3 or 4 hours on the weekends, and just committing to that. And that's really what got me through this at that pace.
That's awesome. 2 hours a day in the work week, 3 or 4 hours on the weekend. For those watching, you're probably like, what the heck? How does that even happen? It's a different process. Like, if you do it the school's way, you're not going to graduate faster. Like, they are businesses. Universities are businesses. They want you to stay in school for longer because they want money, right? But it doesn't actually take that long to learn what you need to learn. On top of that, 80% of what's taught in schools, maybe more, is old, outdated information that you're not really using in the real world. I imagine for you, Chuck, we're talking you already had the knowledge to do the job you want to do. I imagine you didn't take a ton more from your degree because what's taught in school is usually such old, outdated information. What are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts there?
Well, I think you're right there too, and that's one thing that I think people don't really understand or have an idea of when they're getting into a program like this is they're focused on I want to get a degree, I want to get it fast, and I want something that sounds cool. But if you take a step back and think about what you want your end result to look like, what job do you want to do, and then figure out one, what kind of degree do you need to do that, and also picking a degree path in a field or an industry that you already have experience in. So if you already know how to do the things that you're being tested on, that's just that much less studying that you have to do. So it's about leveraging the experience that you already have, applying it to the questions in the test to get that piece of paper that everybody tells you you need to have. That's really what it comes down to. It's not just
Hmm.
take the test, answer the questions. It's about applying the knowledge that you already have.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's frustrating because I work with a lot of people, and so many people are, like you said, so focused on what degree sounds cool. Take a step back. Why do you want the degree? What jobs or doors do you want open? And then what's the fastest, smoothest way to get there? And sometimes we as people just overcomplicate things, and it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. Like, let's just get the degree that's going to get us the job we want and move on with life. Now, when you found me, because you obviously found me, and anyone who finds me online is probably searching like how to get a degree faster, or like how do I don't know, online bachelor's degrees, or whatever. You found me. Were you skeptical at all, or did you think like, hey, yeah, let's go get a degree in under a year? Like, what were your thoughts?
So initially, my thoughts were, you're absolutely right. I think the first thing that I Googled was, fastest bachelor's degree or fastest college degree or something along those lines. And the first thing was like a thread that I found just talking about, a specific university. And then I started seeing people talking about hacking or accelerating, and I didn't really understand what that was. So then went back to Google and did a search for degree acceleration or degree hacking. And one of the first things that popped up was one of your videos just explaining the process of a 9-month college degree or a 6-month college degree. And at first it was like those moments where you got to tell yourself like, oh, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I may have even walked away for a little while and be like, no, that's not the route that I want to go. But then it just stayed there. Like the idea of finding a way to do the same amount of work just in a more efficient way. Um, because I think that's also too a misconception that people have about accelerating, about hacking degrees or competency-based education is that it's like it's cheating some way. But I'm here to tell you, I've sat down and did all the work. It's not cheating. You're not
Oh,
just because you can do it doesn't mean that it's easy. So you got to be committed. You have to be committed to it, and you have to know what your goals are, and then you have to figure out a way to do the work and apply yourself to meet those goals. But the opportunity is there. You just have to be willing to do the work for it.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there are ways to get fake college degrees and cheat. Well, guess what? If you do those things, you and you get caught, you like go to jail or get fired from your job. Like, no, this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about taking a completely different approach, working really hard, and getting the degrees faster in a very legitimate way so that we have the benefits of a highly accredited, real legitimate degree for the rest of our lives. And you're right on there. We're not we're not cheating our way through college. We're finding a back door in the system that's actually allowed for us to use that schools don't want to tell us about because they want to make more money, right? And that's just kind of how it is. Now, you and Chuck just told me this a few minutes ago, but I was a two-time college dropout before I figured out how to do this. Chuck is also a fellow dropout, a three-time college dropout, and then found my program. I taught him how to do this and was able to do this. So, Chuck, having the experience of traditional college, being a normal student, and then having the experience of hacking the degree using a completely different approach, what do you feel like the differences are in what's required from you? And the process in general.
Well, I think it's, what do they say, comparing apples to oranges. In the traditional brick and mortar school, you get credit for spending time in a seat and, in engaging in the coursework, or, doing the assignments and the pop quizzes that they need to do. Whereas you hop over to the CBE, or the competency-based education model, and the acceleration and hacking plan that a lot of people use. And it's really just, um, you cut through it. You cut through that bureaucracy, you cut through that red tape, and you just get to the substance of prove that you know the material and get credit for the material for what you know. But then also it's about saving the time. So if you know that you have a course that you're going to struggle with, knock out the courses that you know you're not going to struggle with. And now you take that time you saved and you can take a little bit longer on a class that you know you're going to struggle with, like math or something. I know everybody loves math. And Ryan, if you remember, that is something that I struggled with when I was going through the program. And I think I actually emailed you a couple of
Mhm.
times just looking for help. So it's very, very different to compare the two. But, I think especially as a working adult, just doing the competency-based model, or accelerating is the much better option, because you don't find yourself in these awkward positions of sitting in rooms with kids that are 10 to 15 years older than you and don't have any of the experiences that you do.
Exactly. I mean, there are so many students that want to go to school to play sports, or they want the social aspect. Well,
Hmm.
once life happens and we start having to pay for and support families and stuff, like, for most of us that goes out the window. And if you're not focused on the social aspect or playing sports or those types of things that have to pull you to a physical campus, this is probably an easier, better fit for you. It's
Hmm.
you're putting in less effort, you're still working hard, but you're saving a lot of effort and energy. You're doing it faster, you're saving a whole bunch of money, and you're walking away with the same regionally accredited high quality degrees. You just have to know how to do this, right? Now,
Right.
Chuck, let me ask you, a lot of people find me online and think like there's no way this is possible, or I'm not smart enough to do this, or it's there's no way I can do this for some reason, whatever reason that is. For people watching this who are thinking, you know what, like, do I have what it takes to accelerate a degree, or should I give this a shot because I don't want to fail, or whatever the reason is? Just what advice would you have for people that are even thinking about this?
If you're on the fence about if you're on the fence about doing it, just do it. Just do it. Because once you get enrolled, once you take that first test, once you pass that first course, you're going to realize that you're kind of your own worst enemy in these situations. That the work is not as scary or as hard as you think it is. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. So if anybody that's on the fence, anybody that's not sure whether school is for them, whether accelerating is for them, whether competency-based education is for them, you've already made it this far. You're already kind of down the rabbit hole. So just keep on going. And on the other end of it is something worthwhile.
Absolutely. I have a lot of students that will go through my program, and I felt this same way when I figured this out. They thought, you know what, it's still like there's still work to do, but it felt to me more like high school than it felt my previous attempts at college. And it is, I mean, it still takes hard work, right? But it's significantly easier than the alternative, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. I think too, it's not like less difficult work than going to the brick and mortar school. It's just you have less of the speed bumps that they put into, having to attend so many classes a week, or having to do assignments before you can get to the final exam. So I think that's also what plays into it too. And I think people might sometimes have that misconception that, like, oh, it must be easier work if you can get it done. It's sort of like, it's like wholesaling. These schools, they cut out the middleman. They take you straight to the test instead of having to go through a dealership or a broker or something like that.
I love that point. Like in my mind, learning something new is, I mean, it's always hard to learn something new, but learning
Mhm.
something new the school's way with let's read the textbooks and do the homework assignments and take the quizzes and hear group projects and study guides and lesson plans and all that stuff. That makes it so much harder than it actually has to be to learn something new. If you can go to
Right,
YouTube
right,
and learn a new principle, that's kind of what this is. Like, are you capable of learning? Right? Now,
right.
for those of you who are interested in even learning about my program, it's called Degree Hacking Academy. I'm just going to leave a link down below this video in the description. Just click there and I'll show you a video where I actually show you the inside of the program, what it's all about. You can just see if it's a good fit for you. And if not, that's okay too. Like Chuck and I are here. We just want to inspire people to earn college degrees faster and to move on with life and qualify for those pay raises and all of that. That's what this is all about. Like having a college degree is cool, but it's cool because of the doors that it opens for us. And that's why we want this. Otherwise, we wouldn't go through the hassle of even doing this. We want the benefits of life. Chuck, I just want to thank you for being here. Is there anything you want to add before I let you go, get back to your day?
I think the big thing is kind of something that I already hit on. If you're thinking about taking the chance, take the chance. And if you're worried about how to pay for it, the great thing about schools like this, schools like these that offer these competency-based education models is, they're all high-level schools. They're all regionally accredited schools, which is, the standard as far as it goes for college education. So there's a lot of student aid out there. There's grants available. And then especially too for people like me, people in my situation, I noticed in a lot of my research, veterans, there seems to be a misconception out there that a lot of these online schools, and especially the schools that offer competency-based education or flat rate terms, are not covered by VA benefits. But I'm here to tell you that not only did I do this thing in 18 months, but I didn't have to pay $1 out of pocket for it.
That's
It's all
so
covered by
cool.
the benefits that so many of these veterans out there earn and don't use because of misconceptions that they might have. So that'd be the biggest piece of advice I think I want people and veterans especially to take away from is these are high quality degrees and there's options out there to make sure you can get it done and get it paid for.
That's huge. That's huge. I just want to tell anyone out there, if you're facing paying college tuition out of pocket, it's more because you don't know what benefits are there for you. And it's a lack of knowledge of how to get school paid for. Anyone, like you're saying, Chuck, military benefits, grants if you have low income. If you don't have either opportunities, anyone can get scholarships for the amount of tuition you need to hack a degree. We're not talking about $80,000. We're talking like, let's try to get this thing in under a year, or in Chuck's situation, 18 months. That's way less tuition than what you're required to pay to be in school for 4, 5, 6 years. Anyone can do this. I teach people how to get scholarships all the time as well. Just reach out if you need help. Gain the knowledge to not have to come out of pocket for your degree, and you don't have to pay for school, which is amazing. So, Chuck, I'm really glad you added that. I just want to say to you, congratulations. So excited for you. So excited to see. I mean, this degree is going to make a difference. Maybe you work this job that you're in forever, and you got a sweet pay raise, you got a sweet promotion. Maybe you just keep climbing the ladder and getting better and better jobs, which is, with your type of knowledge, probably the more likely scenario.
Well, I hope you're right, Ryan. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you putting this together and giving me a chance to talk to your audience. And I just think it's beneficial, even if this helps motivate just one person to take that chance and start this thing. Then I think it's worth the time that we spent talking to each other.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And thank you for your time. For those just wondering, I'll leave that link down below the video. And I just genuinely hope that you can take the next step, get the degree faster, get the dream job, all of that. I mean, you are capable of achieving this if you're willing to put in the work. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you in the next video.